Alright guys, I can't make this up. What I'm going to read to you is the scariest new law that I've ever seen passed in my life. This is Rule 2.13, Isolation and Quarantine Procedures imposed by New York State. Listen to this. Isolation and quarantine procedures that the state can now force anyone into quarantine for any reason, and it is not limited to the coronavirus. The government now has legal authority to remove residents from their homes and force them into quarantine camps. There is no age restriction. Children could be removed from their homes without parental consent. I'm not making this up. You can read this on LinkedIn yourself. They do not need to warn citizens when they are coming or how long they must quarantine. You will be required to take any steps the state mandates, including taking medications against your will. There is no due process, no court hearing, and no rule of law, as the government may now abduct citizens in the name of public health. This is a for real thing that has already been passed. This is an article on LinkedIn from November 22nd, 2023, and is published by Armstrong Economics. But wait, it gets better. You may not even take a test to determine if you are sick. The state has full authority over you and your body. It is one of the most oppressive and restrictive pieces of legislation to pass in U.S. history and nullifies our freedoms. What do you guys think of that law? Here's my 2 cents on it. I think they rolled out the first wave of viruses and we got scared and we put on our chin diapers, we put on our masks, we covered up our faces, and this basically undermined our economy. It took out the small to medium-sized businesses. So even landscapers in Michigan were forced into isolation. This was a ridiculous process. We are working outside away from everybody, but we're not allowed to work. What was the point of this? It was the first wave of controlling and manipulating the people to see what they could do. But I think the powers that be have determined that guys like you and I, we're not going to take a round 2 of wearing masks. We're not going to take a round 2 of being forced into isolation. So they've got to up the ante. So they've taken it to the next level and they're jeopardizing our individual liberties. And the problem is once it's enforced in one state, it's going to migrate across the nation. So New York has now adopted it, but the next step will be California will take this on. Then it'll go to Chicago, Illinois. Then it'll go to Minnesota, and it'll go through all of the blue states. We're going to be taken over and jeopardized individually. They're not going to come in and threaten the small to medium-sized businesses, because I don't think that's going to work. I think, and you guys tell me if you think this is right or if you think something else, I think they're going to be going after us on an individual basis, going after each and every one of us, threatening us and scaring us into submission. Here's where it gets even scarier, and you guys aren't probably hearing about this on the news, and there's a lot of this stuff that you can Google. So Google NY 2.13. You'll see the actual law that is referenced in this article. You can read verbatim the details of that law. I've done it. The article itself is on LinkedIn, so you can find all of this information out there for you. But here's where it gets even scarier. On the news, you will hear that there is another virus coming down the pipeline that has a 100% mortality rate. Why would they create that? It makes 0 sense. But it goes further. You can see guys like Bill Gates.
In terms of disease going global, doesn't happen much, but it'll be happening more. Either, as you say, Asia's a big risk and Africa's also a big risk, because the boundary between humans and animals is getting closer and closer.
They've for months now been saying, yeah, there's going to be another pandemic, there's going to be another pandemic, and they're trying to condition us to get ready for another pandemic. while they silently pass laws right under our nose, allowing them to control and manipulate us, to isolate us, to take our children away. This has gone way too far. This is beyond anything I've ever seen passed in the history of the United States of America. And I don't know where this is going to go. So I'm going to ask you guys, put your 2 cents in. What can we do to combat things like this? We can vote, but obviously we're voting now. And this is what's being passed under our laws. No verification, no consent. They can lock us up into quarantine. They can lock us up into isolation. This is the scariest thing that I've ever seen. And it's a devastation. It can be absolutely devastating to small to medium-sized businesses. Round 1.0 of the pandemic absolutely was. 2.0, they're now coming for you and I individually. What do you guys think is happening across this country? Put it in the comments down below. I'd love to hear from you guys to see what you think. But I just wish the news would start to tell us a little bit more about what's going on and not do some of these feel-good posts that we see and actually give us the real news. God bless. Go get them, you guys.